So again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to share with you, well, on the area that I spent a lot of my working time in. I would also like to just, look at the Young Entrepreneurs Association. I want to just big up the progress and the work that is being done. And for the series, the Young Entrepreneur Success Series, as Jan would have mentioned, and we're in our webinar edition. And I just want to just bring out what the mission or the vision is of the Young Entrepreneurs Association. And that is exactly what it is that we're carrying out right now, which is creating that environment where young entrepreneurs can support and inspire one another in growth, balance, and success. And as a member of the YEA myself, it is really a pleasure for me to be able to just share my knowledge with you and for your growth, your balance, and your success. All right, so I have a little disclaimer that I want to put out. Is that the information contained in this presentation is being shared as generic guidance to employers, to yourselves, on how to treat employment-related issues, and this is by no means legal advice. All right, I just want to put that out there. All right, so the topic that I'll be looking at tonight for the next few minutes is managing your human assets during and after COVID-19. I will be looking at some of the options that we have. I am sure what I've been going through is not exhaustive. This is not the list. There are many other things that can be done. There are other creative things that can be done as well. And at this point, I wanted to do a short poll. Let me see if I can get that up. All right, so you'd have to let me know if you're hearing me and everything is going good. All right, so I have a short poll I want to run. I just want to have an idea of the persons that I have on this webinar, and just based on the topic that we'll be looking at, where are you in it? So I'll start with my poll, which is asking the question, simple question, do you have employees? Because what we'll be looking at is how is it that we manage our staff complement. I know some persons, like myself, I just started in May. I do not have any employees as yet, but I know there are others that before. But if you realize we have around 67, 4 persons that says that they do not have any employees. And then we have a 1 or 2 persons that do have, and that's fine, because I'm sure if I should ask another question, how many of you, based on where you see your business going, there is the intention for you to, have a staff complement, and I'm sure everybody would say yes, right? But I don't have a poll for that. All right, so let's get back to the presentation. Thanks, Janice. All right. So going back to the presentation now, as I said, we'll be looking at managing your human resource or your human assets, and of course, relevant times was during COVID. And I want us to also take some time to look at after COVID. So where are we? This is where we're at. We are smack in the middle of a situation, and it's a situation that we have not experienced before. It's a pandemic that is no respecter of geographic boundaries, and the term you hear using now more than ever, it is unprecedented. That's why they call it a novel coronavirus. It is new. We have never seen it before. But then the thing with this pandemic is that it's not a respect of geographic boundaries, nor race, nor gender. And in our cases, in terms of businesses, nor profit margins. Whether you're a large organization, a little one-man shop, it impacts and it is affecting all of us. We're also all faced with this, not just on a local scene, but it's also a global one. And now we're getting a greater understanding of the impact of globalization. And so it has impacted countries, businesses, and down to individuals. And because of this, we find there's great anxiety, there is a lot of uncertainty, and it really just boils down to fear. We have a number of persons who are fearful of what is happening because of the great level of uncertainty that is with it. One minute we're doing good, and we just have one or two, new cases, and I'm talking here in Jamaica, and then in 24 hours we're boom at 45, new cases. So there's that uncertainty as to where is it and how will we when will we get to the other side of this. So how are businesses responding? You have a number of businesses doing different things. There's some that just already thrown in the towel. But there's a term that you find that I have found that is being using a lot over the time, and it's pivoting. And this is looking at how to shift either part or the entire operation as it relates to your business. I'm not sure how many of you would have seen it, but there's a document that was recently released by the PSOJ Access to Financing team on the different types of pivots that a business can use, even, well, definitely in this time. So you can do part of it, your entire shift in your organization or operations. Some of the other ways, you find a number of businesses looking at even trying to get some refinancing, getting some financing in to help them to stay afloat. So right now, all businesses are operating in what we call a crisis mode. There's stimulus packages that are the various governments are trying to put out to assist the businesses. There are collaborative efforts that some businesses are doing. So we recognize that if we come together instead of trying to battle this individually, if we come together, then we can probably together survive this. And of course, what it is that we're doing now with the YEA is showing the power of association, where a number of us then will come together to voice where we are at, and to be able to bargain better for any form of, well, stimulus or any form of support that we can get in order to stay afloat. But what you find now more than anything else is that businesses are really operating in crisis mode. So what we've been looking at really is managing your human assets. And we've been saying that. But there are many other things that a business owner would need to manage. You have to ensure looking at your finances based on the type of business you're in, looking at your operations, your production line, manufacturing, depending on what it is. There's so many other areas that you have to be focusing on. And many times when it comes down to the human assets, unfortunately, there is probably one or two things that persons tend to lean towards, and we're going to look at some of those. So just to give you an overview as to what the presentation, or what we'll be talking about tonight, is we'll be looking at, of course, the law, the labor law. How does the law, or what does the law provide in terms of guidance and how to manage the human assets? We want to look at also what are some of the things that we can look at as I call alternative options. And then at the end of it, just to briefly look at what is one thing, if any, that we can probably look at as we look beyond COVID-19. So a definition of what is human assets, right? So, well, this is my definition really, but human assets or human assets is a term that is used to refer to the employees of an organization. And many times you find we will use the word human asset instead of worker, or employee, because you want to give that sense of value, a sense of worth. And so you'd want the employees to feel, or probably to your own self, that they're an asset to your business rather than a liability. But then I want to jump to another term that is also used somewhat interchangeably, but more often than human assets, is human capital. And this again refers to the collection of the knowledge, the experience, and the skills of an employee that an organization has to use it to help propel the business going further. All right. So you'll find me going back or coming back to these terms, coming back. So I just want us to keep in mind what they are, really. So what is the new normal? Is there a new normal? Yeah, there is a new normal. There is going to be a new normal. And personally, I believe that all that is happening now, COVID is just causing a shift, or a reset rather. And it's giving us an opportunity to really, as I said, just take another look. There's no time to be short-sighted, and that's one of the things I would want, if nothing else, you take from this conversation, from this talk, is that this is not a time to be short-sighted. The temptation is there to be so. Because when you get into panic mode or survival mode, it's just so now. But I want us to stretch our minds a little as the young entrepreneurs, as the business owners, stretch our minds a little and try not to get caught in just being short-sighted, but to go looking at the long term. So we want to bring about the whole matter of forward thinking and thinking forward as it relates to human asset is you would know at the end of COVID, you're now required skilled, healthy, who would have thought, that would be a part of the requirement now as it relates to employees, but healthy and committed employees. And so, what then is important? And I mean, we can always look at this to say that, and we know that the success or failure of any business is really dependent on the caliber of people or employees that you have working there. And again, the human asset. What is the level of skill? What is the level of experience? What is the level of knowledge that you have working with you? And that can help to determine the success or failure of your business. Another point I want to bring out too, why it is important for us to really look at our human assets or our human capital, is that retaining talent is more cost effective than hiring. It is. And there is also a strong correlation between employee satisfaction, or I want to call it employee engagement, and the productivity. All right. So these are some of the reasons I would want us to pay a little bit more attention to human assets, a little bit beyond just them being here, working for you, but not being very short sighted, but going long term. So let's look at it. So the first thing I want us to look at is what are some of the options that we have under the law, the labor laws, that will provide us with the guidance that we can use to be able to look at how we manage our human assets. Now I want to bring out that the law, it provides a minimum. It's the minimum requirement. All right. So it just means I can't go below that. But there's nothing wrong with you going over and beyond. The other thing too with the labor laws we have found, even in this time, is that it is limited in terms of its response to the situation that we're in right now. Um, so us in HR would know that some aspects of the labor laws can be quite archaic, and I know even for the labor relations code, we have been really working and trying to get a total revamp of the labor relations code to make it more modern. But then that is one of the things too. There is a limitation as it relates to the response that the law gives to what it is that we're going through right now. So these are the main options under the labor law that we will be looking at and that you would have. And again, when we look at managing, is how is it that you're going to be coping with your manage your or your human assets while at the same time keeping your business afloat. What you find is that many times trying to keep your ship afloat, persons tend to look at cargo and what it is that they can quickly throw overboard, right? So, and usually and unfortunately, the employees or the human assets are tend to be the first in line to start to throw those overboard. Then we should be able to keep the ship a little bit more stable. So, if that is how you're thinking, I mean, that is how we have been thinking. But these are some of the options that we have. We'll be looking at. So, we're looking at the law giving the provision for layoff or furlough, using of the vacation leave, and this is helping in terms of what is happening now. The flexi work arrangements, especially or specifically the remote work option, the sick leave, taking off sick leave, and of course, very last resort is termination of employment. Usually, in this type of situation, is really redundancy. And so, let's just quickly go through. As it relates to the layoff, no, many of us will hear layoffs, And I know in the US, layoffs, when we say layoffs, it tends to mean termination. But according to the law here in Jamaica, and according to Section 5A of the Employment Terminations and Redundancy Payments Act, layoff is just a temporary measure that you would use, and it is not termination. So as the points there, one is a temporary measure. So if this is just something that you just need for a short time, you need a solution to be able to help you to just kind of just manage the situation at this time. Probably there's a temporary closure of an area, or probably you have to cease operation for a little while, right? Then temporary, or should I say layoff is one, or furlough is one that option that you can look at. The thing with the layoff is that it provides provision for a maximum of 120 days. That's approximately 4 months that you can lay an employee off. The other thing with the layoff is that it is without pay. The law provides the provision that it can be without pay. Now, remember, I said earlier that the law provides a minimum requirement. All right. So it's without pay, but if you as the employer are able to provide some form of payment, then that's an option that you can, but you do not have to give payment. And the good thing, or the other thing about the layoff, is that while the employee is off, they are still considered employees. So there's not a break in their agreement. It's like an unpaid leave of absence in a sense. But under the layoff, it cannot be done for more than 120 days, and it can be without pay. All right. Now, if you have any questions, you can make notes of your questions, and then I can take your questions at the end of the presentation. All right. The other option we have under the law is the matter of taking vacation. So with what is happening now, one, you might have the lockdown happening that is happening now in St. Catherine. Persons just cannot go out. You have persons who, probably just need to close down operations for a little while. There is the option of taking the vacation leave. Now, the thing about taking vacation is, and I want to bring it up first, is that the employer cannot force the employee to take vacation leave. And this is paid vacation leave during the period. The amount that is taken, of course, will be based on the minimum requirement, or the statutory minimum, or what is based on your contract of employment. If vacation is going to be used in a time like this, there must be some mutual agreement. And one of the things you will recognize coming out of all of this is the need for discussion between the employees and the employer. All right. And so at the end of the agreement or so, the employee is still the one responsible to make the necessary requisition. So even though we have the agreement, you cannot just write up as the employer the leave form or leave request form and say, okay, we spoke about it. It's still the employee that would need to make this requisition. So this is an option that can be used if persons do not want to necessarily take on no pay leave of absence because of what is happening, and they probably need to stay home. If it is not a case where work from home can be done, then the employee can opt to take their vacation leave once they have it available to them. The other one under the option, again, along with the vacation, is the sick leave. And you'll find both the sick and the vacation leave. You'll find that in the holiday with pay order of 1973. And again, eligible employees can be allowed to take paid sick leave, at least the minimum requirement under the law, or in accordance to their employment contract. What you find is that the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, along with other boards or bodies and associations like the Jamaica Employment Federation, the HRMAJ, the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica, they would have come out in the outset to encourage employees, where it is possible, to consider going over and above the statutory minimum. We know that according to the statutory minimum, you become qualified for a minimum, for 10 working days paid sick leave. All right. Some companies do offer more based on tenure, so it's whatever is in your contract. One of the things that they have been encouraging that you can look at as an option is that if they employ, usually by law, if the absence for sick is going to exceed 3 days, then a certificate or at least 6 certificates would need to be presented. Now, what some employees have done or can do is that they can waive the need to submit to submit a certificate if the employee decides that, listen, I want to stay home, or I have to be under lockdown. I can't afford to not um, get or take unpaid, no pay leave. I have some sick days and I would want to apply my 8 sick days. Again, that is a conversation with the employer and the employee, and then that can be applied. Now, in our case in St. Catherine, because I'm in St. Catherine and I'm under the lockdown, we have gone about 12 about 12 working days. So if persons have vacation, so it can, instead of being getting a no pay, if I'm not able to work from home, I can, in conversation with my employer, say, all right, I have some sick leave, I want to apply it, and then the proper notations can be made for the waiving of the need to take in a sick certificate. So that is also an option. The other one, of course, is the flexi work arrangements, which I find now a lot of persons are recognizing its use. This has been an act in from 2014. It's been here for a while, but one of the issues that the Ministry of Labor and Social Security have found with the flexi work arrangements is that it's there, but it's just not necessarily being used, right? Or the options. So what it is that the flex work arrangements, they're characterized by the variations in the work schedule, and that's how you can come under the Flex Work Arrangement Act. And it takes many forms. Sorry, you have the part-time work with benefits. You have the compressed work week. The part-time work with benefits is where, based on agreement, you still receive certain benefits, your health, insurance, your group life insurance, pension, that kind of thing, while you are working part-time. Part-time would mean that is not the full 40 hours per week that you would work, but then there's an agreement you can still get the benefits. There's a compressed work week. And what a compressed work week means is a way that, again, based on discussions, you can, instead of working a full 5 days, you can then determine to compress the 40 hours over 3 days, except, for example, or over 4 days, so you can get a 1 day, off. But you would have completed your 40 hours for that week. Telecommunicating is the thing that is big now, and more specifically working from home. So telecommuting is where you have an offsite area that you can work from. It doesn't have to be home once it's just not in the office. But what you find, what is happening now is the telecommuting is the remote work where persons are able to work from home. And then, of course, the flexi time is a matter of, again, based on discussions, based on your operations, you can look at persons coming in staggered times. I can come in at 9 to 5, somebody can come in at 10 to 8, that kind of thing. And how this is helpful during this time with the curfews that we have, with the social distancing that needs to be exercised, with the need also to reduce the number of persons who are in any area. Too many persons, you can use a flexi work arrangement that is once your operation is able to accommodate it. So you can stagger the time so you don't have everybody coming in at the same time. You can do the telecommuting, which everybody's realizing once you're able to, where persons work from home. All right. And so we will look at some other options as well, but these are some of the options that you have under the Flex Work Arrangements Act. All right. And the last but not least is the termination of employment. Now, this is, of course, Section 5.1, which is in the ETRPA. It should be last resort, really. This is not something that you'd want to jump to first. Remember, one of the things we looked at to say that staff retaining talent is much more cost effective than hiring, right? So you want to be, it can be considered, if one, there's a reduction in the work required by the business, or if there's an entire cessation in operation. And sometimes the cessation may not be permanent, it's probably for a while. So you could look at other options instead of terminating, instead of redundancy. But then some persons will come to this. The decision, of course, is an economic one and should be carefully examined before taking such a decision. So, as with the layoff, that is something that you can just easily do. And then if you see things starting to pick up, or you probably pivot another way, then you can call back the employer and say, all right, come, let's come back to work. And then, so the layoff kind of gives a little bit more flexibility than with the redundancy. With this case, you're just laying the person off, you're terminating totally. And of course, there is why it's so that you have to be so careful in doing the redundancy, because it has so many implications. And so you'd want to ensure you're familiar with the labor relations code in terms of how to carry out a redundancy, which is really speaking to consultation. You want to consult with the representatives. If you're in a, well, I know I really don't think for many of our small businesses, they're in a unionized environment, but some representatives or with the employees, sorry, with the employees themselves. So there's consultation, there's a lot of communication. As I said, you recognize that a lot of it, the underlying thing that you need to have in this time is communication, dialogue with the employees. All right, I hope you guys are following me thus far. Now, that is looking at the options that we have under the labor laws. And we would have looked at those options. And as I said, you can, based on what they are, based on what is happening, based on how your business is set up, you can look at them and see which one you're able to apply now. Probably there's some you can work with now and see how that is helping you as you continue to stay afloat before you just go ahead and just start to throw people overboard in terms of throwing cargo over. Now, this we're moving on into, I want to look at some of our alternative options, which is not necessarily edged in the law per se. The law, in some instance, can provide a base as to how we're using these. But then again, I dub this section in understanding the men. I'm trying not to get biblical, hallelujah, but but this is actually a term that is in the Bible, it's in First Corinthians, and it was used when speaking about how is it that we need to know mature in terms of the walk, that the persons would have. So no more as a child, you should be as a child as it relates to humility, but it's your understanding and how you apply your knowledge, be men, be mature. But the context I want to use this in is really for employees. When I say in understanding how things are going, in understanding what is happening with your business. I know this is your bread and butter. I know this is what it is that you need to get running, but be men in the sense of be human. Also look at the employees, your human assets, that they are human as well. The same anxieties that you are going through are the same anxieties they are going through. This business is your bread and butter. You don't know this employment to your business is also their bread and butter. So these are just some of the options again that we could look at to help to help in terms of their human capital to transition in this time as well, because they're also your responsibility. You are there to look out for their health and their safety. And I'm sorry we didn't get to go through the news presentation before this, because you have, that's another obligation as an employer for the employees. And so I do not want us to lose sight of the long-term impact. Currently, of course, decisions are crisis-based and reactive. So this is happening, what we're doing to respond to that. Something about what you're doing to respond to that curfew coming or how we need to. And that is fine because that is how things are moving now. And again, what it means is that these are some options that we can, if you just take the time to probably repackage, phase certain things, formalize things a bit, then it will help, because in most cases, well-reasoned thinking can work out to be better than gut reaction or gut reacting. All right. And we want to help our human capital, want to help our human assets in their transitioning as well. And so, some of the alternative options that we can look at, instead of just laying off with no pay, we can probably look at reducing pay. Again, all of this is with discussion. You do not want to make any unilateral decisions. You want to try and today have that mutual conversation and agreement. I mean, I do not have it here to go through, but you also have to take into consideration your employment contract that the persons would have signed as well, because it's a contract. All right. So you have to take that into consideration. So there has to be some mutual conversation and agreement when you're looking at implementing some of these options. So reduced pay is one of them. So things are hard. We have to look at financial stability. I want you to get something. They say half a loaf is better than none. So instead of just laying you off with no pay to just help us to survive, how about I reduce the pay by a 50% or a 60%? And then we just, bear it out together and see how longer we can keep this business afloat. Staff rotations help. The company that I'm with, one of the things we've been looking at is where we've combined staff rotation with layoffs. So we recognize that we've had to do some layoffs, but instead of just taking a set and laying that one set off for a full 4 months or 3 months, we have done it in rotation. So based on the staff, we had started to say, okay, we do a 2 weeks, like a pay cycle rotation. So those on the fortnightly, we have a set that is laid off for the 14 days with no pay. And then after the 14 days, we do a rotation. Another set goes off for another 14 days. This set comes on and work. So we would have reduced the operation because operations would have needed to be reduced. But instead of just terminating, because we are thinking forward, to know that we're going to need these skill sets. So we can't afford to lose, but at the same time, we have to look at how is it that we can stay afloat for them to even keep their jobs going further. So job rotation is another one. Job sharing is also another one as well. So there are sometimes, and even in what we're doing, even if we lay off some persons, we have another area that might be booming. So we probably move, or I wouldn't say move, but give the other persons an option to help another sector that we need to work in that area. And so job sharing is another option. You can look at compressed time and pay. So not that we're just reducing your pay, you work the same hours, but say, okay, instead of working at 8 hours, come in for half a day and we cut the pay by half. Again, half a loaf is better than no bread. These are just some of the options. As I said at the beginning, is that it is not exhaustive. This is not the list. There are many other options, and there, as you recognize, you can look at using some of the options under the law with some of the alternate options, and then come up with something that works for you. Again, I want to continue to reiterate the importance of communication, and dialogue when we're looking at implementing some of these strategies. All right. So looking beyond the COVID-19, we don't know when this will be. We would love to be able to say, all right, by September, by August. I hear persons are saying by May, based on where we're at now. You're here on the other side. Government is saying we're not yet at our peak. So there's a lot of uncertainty happening. We hear countries opening their operations, but there's still the spread. So we don't know what is happening, but we still at least need to have a little touch of our thought looking beyond the COVID, because the business, we want the business to continue. There's going to be life after COVID. It may not be the regular norm, but there's probably going to be a new normal, but there is going to be life. And you would want to be able to come out on the other side still at least with your business, the fundamentals, and your full business intact. So in looking at it, I want to just share this statement from an article that I was reading. It says forward looking human capital strategies. These are the focus. This is the focus as it relates to your human asset that you would want to have in mind now, for after COVID. You want to look at the human capital strategies that you want to put in place that will be aligned with the needs of your organization. Because while you have to be focusing on the human assets, you are focusing on other aspects of your business. Have you pivoted? Do you think you're going to have to pivot? With certain operations change? With certain ways that you carry out your business, you engage with your clients, with those change? As you think about that, at the same time, you have to look at what then is the human capital. What are the knowledge, the skills? What are the experiences that you would need your employees to have to be better aligned with where is it that where you see or could see your organization going or your business going once this blows over. And in doing so, this human capital strategy that needs to also help you, as I said, align with the needs of your organization. It should also help to support your employees through difficult changes and giving your companies a competitive edge. So when you're able to put these in, you are able to attract the talent that you would need. Because, for example, if now you're recognizing that based on how things are going, e-commerce is going to be a big thing for a lot of organizations, and no matter how big or small you are, that is probably a platform that you're going to have to consider, because this is something that a lot of organizations have found to be, those who had it up was able to just quickly pivot to be able to start making accepting payments and so online, when there's some that they weren't so easily able to do so. And so you find, for example, e-commerce. So what is the level of talent that your employees would need to now have? Before, you never really used computer that much, only one or two persons. But now you realize there's going to be a need for persons to be probably a little bit more tech savvy. You don't know. So you have to look at that. And so the kind of talent that you'd want to be attracting. You also want to help to mitigate potential staff shortage for yourself. So while you are looking at the options as to how I can do this now to survive, no, you have to take that in consideration where, I mean, this person has a critical um, talent or skill or experience that I need. I can't afford to lose this person. So now you have to look at what are the options I can use. And as sad as it is, what are some of the options that I can probably use with some versus the other? So you have to think about what staff shortage you do not want to have or talent deficit. And of course, you want to create a strong culture for your organization. Because one of the things you will find is that when your employees are engaged, when you have a strong culture, it helps you to manage these crises when they come, because you now have committed team members. And with that, now, the thing I want to leave with us that I want us to think about. I mean, I know, persons thinking, looking at job description, yeah, those are will come. But what I want my small and medium enterprises, when you're looking at your human assets, looking after COVID, right? From now, wait until after COVID to look at after COVID, is engagement. How do you engage your employees? A lot of my small and medium enterprises say that only large organizations are able to do this. But what is employee engagement? Employee engagement, if you're looking at that definition, is the extent to which employees feel passionate about their jobs with your organization, with your business, and how committed they are to you. So when times like this come and say, listen, guys, we all see what is happening. We need to keep this business going. Before that, you shouldn't even be the ones to call them. They're coming to you. I said, boss, what we're going to do? How we gonna do this? I hear what? If I will come in 3 days and make Joe come in 2 days and I'll take a reduction so we can just work this thing. They should be the ones coming with the solution. I mean, fine. So it may not be there yet, but we want to have the commitment to your business. And of course, with that, they would want to put discretionary efforts into their work. So they become a little bit more flexible So if you have to work from home, or even if they're working from home, you can feel and rest assured that they're not slacking off, that there's some level of productivity. It may not be optimum, but at least there's some level. Simply put, an employee's commitment and connection to an organization is what we want to consider employment engagement. And there's a difference between employee engagement and employee satisfaction. We're not looking at satisfaction, we're looking at engagement, which is how badly do they want your business to survive. And so I just want to share just 8 things that you can look at to help you start putting in and looking at how to get your employees engaged in your business. The first and foremost is that you want to be able to share your vision and the goals of the business. This is one of the downs I would say I have seen in a few of in some of the organizations that I've interacted with, is that they're the ones that have everything in their head, and that is good. But if you have employees now, you have to now share it with them. So they're seeing the vision, they know where you want to go, they know what you want to do. So when you come and you're implementing certain things, there's not that resistance because they recognize that it is in line. Look at the YEA in terms of the vision that we looked at earlier. And what we're doing now in terms of the Young Entrepreneur Success Series, this is in line with our vision. So when that opportunity presented itself, for us, the other businesses, to share our knowledge to help our fellow business owners and entrepreneurs, it was not an issue because we know what the vision of the organization and the power of association brings. You want to encourage flexibility, right? Helping employees understand that they have their challenges, and so you're able to be flexible. Not to go and bend over, bend back way and just let them loose, so to speak. No. But don't be so rigid where it's just this is how it has to be done. But be flexible and understand that they also have their thing to do as well. Also, always try and be authentic. I'm not saying that you need to open up and tell your employees every nitty-gritty of what is happening with you, but create that authentic relationship. So when you ask them how they're doing, they know you really want to know how they're doing, right? Asking for feedback. A lot of times they are the ones working on the ground. They're the ones interacting with your clients. You should be busy being all high level strategic. So when you need, ask them for the feedback. They're the ones that are seeing how the business is operating. They're the ones seeing the things that are just not working. And when you have engaged staff, you can rest assured to know if something is not working out. They're not just going to say, well, boss don't say it, such up, why I must care. No, they're engaged, they're committed to your business, and because they know you ask for the feedback and when they give you the feedback, you look at it and see if it can work. So asking for feedback is one way to help them feel that they are contributing to the business. You want to clarify goals. Many times as small businesses, I find that we have persons come on, we just say, all right, you're the cashier. That's about it. But what is the goal of the cashier? What do you want the cashier to achieve? And I go as simple as that because goals, person will think, oh, this is performance appraisal. Yeah, it's performance appraisal. You set the objectives as to what it is that they need to accomplish. There's no confusion. They know what it is that they need to be working towards. And when persons have a sense of purpose that way, then there is some level of engagement. If today you tell me one thing, tomorrow you're going to tell me to come and do this, the next you're going to tell me to do something else, I am not feeling a sense of connection. And so I'm going to be disengaged. And I just probably just sit and I won't be proactive because I'm just waiting for you to tell me what else I need to do today. But if you give me my goals, set the expectations, then that will also help. You want to develop a people-focused culture. You want, based on what it is that you do within your organization, within your business, among your team, to let them feel and know that, you do consider them. And a time like this is a perfect opportunity for you to let them know that, yes, your business is important. And I know we're going to say, well, if the business don't operate, then them don't have a job. So you have to focus on the business. Yes, you have to focus on the business, but you also have to let them know that you're thinking about them as well. So, in creating that people focused culture, it will also help you to look at what are some of the options that you would use. Are you just going to jump to just lay off everybody for 4 months, no pay? You really don't care what happens. No, it's just survival. Everybody's survival of the fittest. But you have to show them that you care. Do the reduced care, even if you can't, you're probably going to lay them off. Give them a care package. Check in with them. Let them know that they are the focus, that they are important and they matter, right? Show gratitude regularly. Saying thank you. When was the last time you, even during all that is happening, those who are working with you and going through, coming out the same way, how have you stopped to tell them thanks? Show gratitude. And of course, you want to promote honesty. You want team members or your employees to feel that even if they make a mistake or they're at fault, that they can come to you and admit and confess their faults without any major, I'm going to say there are consequences, but without any major reprimand, if you understand what I'm saying. So I can come and tell you that this was my fault. You take it, you look at the issue, you work what needs to be done, but there are consequences. Not saying you're not supposed to do whatever sanctioning, but help them to have a safe environment where they're able to come and be honest, and you also to be honest with them. All right. So, um, like I said, these are my few words, but just to just summarize, again, as we said, we're all in a time which is unprecedented, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. For business owners, we have gone into crisis mode, we have gone into survival mode. There are many options, but then there are sometimes, we just have to be quickly, because we have to be so reactive, we do not get an opportunity to stop and to look at all the possible options that are out there for us as it relates to our human assets. We would have determined that our human asset is important, and we know that. But then the outcome of this, or the main objective of this talk with you, is for you to understand or to try not to lose sight of the long term impact. Yes, we have to look at what is happening now, but there will be life after COVID. There will be. There will be life after COVID. Your business will stand after COVID. So you still need to make sure that you are keeping and retaining the talent that you need. And remember that you have to look at your human capital strategies that will be aligned with the goals of your organization, because what is happening now will cause a new norm. It will cause some level of pivoting for most, if not all, businesses in terms of how we interact with our clients, how we produce our goods, and how we carry out the execution of our services. And so the human assets and the human capital is another thing that you need to pull up on your radar in terms of looking at as you navigate through these storms, and also as you make your way out of it to the other side of COVID 19. I just want to thank you for your attention. All right, so what if the contract ends in March? Are they still with you? Because you're now in April, so that's another thing. All right, I know you probably will not have one to lay off. There is the option where you can decide if you do not want to renew the contract. It's really up to you, or if you would want to extend the contract for a period. But then you have to also look the role that is there. Because even though I'm talking, I'm not saying, oh, you don't need to lay off. You might have to, right? But if the contract ends, look at the position that this person holds. Is it a critical position? Is it a position as you look at your human capital strategies? Would this role and this employee, this human capital, remember you have to look at the skill sets, etc., that this person has. Is it something that you'd want to hold on to? Because if the contract ends, you are honestly not obligated to renew it. But you have to know what it is you'd want to accomplish going forward and whether this would fall in line with that. All right, so you said ends in March. We're now almost starting May. I figured you still have the person there. Um, if you are going to decide to keep the person, you would have to then extend the contract. The other thing about this too is that, so in the law, if you have a contract with someone and if 2 weeks would have passed without you having stated what would happen and the person is still working, then the contract is automatically renewed. So if the person is still there, you would have automatically by default renewed the contract. So you now would need to determine, again, is this a critical talent that I would want to maintain or retain? Then you can look at how long you'd want to extend it for. Even if the person is on contract, you can lay the person off for a period with no pay, but then you'd have to determine how long after this you'd want to extend. I really hope I answered it. Um, but you would have already, by default, extended the contract if the person is still with you. Okay. After expiration, motion pays for layoff. All right. By law, after if 120 days have elapsed, the employee can come to you and request that you make them redundant. So usually the termination after that would be in a redundancy. So you would want to be very mindful when you are using the layoff as well. As I said, it's for a temporary measure, and you'd want to every now and then review or reassess how what is it that you'll be doing where this is concerned. What some companies would do is that even though we have the option for 120 days, sorry, after about 30 days, 60 days, it's always good to put it like in 30 days span and then you do a reassessment, or I have to extend or I can lessen, so to speak. But you would have to be mindful that after the 130 days, it's not that you're going to pay them for the 130 days, but it usually would end up to be a redundancy. So you will be paying out some money, which will probably work out to be more than 120 days. So again, that is one of the things you have to be careful when you are using the layoff option. So as I said, you'd want to look at the various, option. Each option has a limitation. So you have to try and ensure that you kind of get the full and to determine which one would work best in your situation. All right. So with redundancy general, based on the guidelines given in the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payment Act, is that you are paid for your period of employment, right? How long you have been working or employed to the company. Once it is over 2 years, let me say that. If you're less than 2 years and it is not considered a redundancy, what most persons would do is to say it's severance. But once it qualifies for redundancy, which is over the 2 years, then it is for the period of time you're employed. And based on the basic, as I said, the law provides the minimum requirements is that you would pay the person 2 weeks, equivalent to 2 weeks of every year that the person has been employed, right? So one of the things you want to look at is most persons, if they have long-serving, long-time employees, they're not necessarily going to use that first layoff option. You would do what we call a LIFO, with stock lasting first out. That's why you find when you have crisis like this happens or a company goes into, whether it's national or just with the company, when the last person that they employ are usually the first persons that they would probably put on layoff or terminate when they're in situations like this, and then they move to their contract. So the permanent persons here for probably more couple of years aren't necessarily the first persons you'd want to look at in doing a layoff. All right, but then if you're just going to go straight to redundancy, well, that is a different thing. You have to look at affordability in terms of because it's going to cost you to do a redundancy.
We got one more question.
Hope I have answered that for you, Petrona. Contract employee entitled to benefits. It's a contract. It says what you want to offer. You can determine if your contract employees are given benefits or not. You'll find there's some organizations that will give a minimum benefit to contracts. I have seen where depending on the term of the contract. All right, let me tell you. See, one of the things you find companies you are able to, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but you are able to maneuver this aspect of employment in terms of contracts. Because as you said, it's a contract. If you are able to give a benefit and that is part of the contract, then that is fine. If you're not able to, you say this is a contract, because remember the contract is them signing to say they accept whatever you have to offer. What you're offering, they have accepted your offer. So this is up to you whether you want to give them benefits.
Guys.
Right, good night, everyone. Thank you again.